Let's take a look. Manipur hostage crisis ends. Abducted youths released. Chief Minister Biren Singh announces safe return. Three people, including a Manipur Rifles personnel, dead in a gunfight in Manipur's Ukhrul over land cleaning as part of Swachhata Abhiyan. Delhi doctor shot dead in Nima hospital. Attackers entered the hospital poised as patients. Israel bombs central Beirut, killing at least 6 people. Tensions in West Asia escalates. Israeli troops clash with Hezbollah in South Lebanon. 8 soldiers killed so far. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei urges West to leave West Asia. Ladakh activist Sonam Wangchuk is released after 2 days of detention. A team from Delhi police escorts him to Rajghat to pay tribute to Mahatma Gandhi. Well, with that now, ladies and gentlemen, we begin the bulletin with our focus on the northeastern state of Manipur. Let's take you through some of the latest developments coming in from the state. 2 young men abducted in Kangpokpi on 27 September 2024 have now been safely returned and they are in the custody of Manipur police. Reports have been coming in that youth were released in an exchange of Kuki prisoners. CM Biren Singh announced the news on social media platform X. He wrote, and I quote, "I sincerely appreciate everyone from both the state and central government who work tirelessly to ensure their safe return. Your efforts are deeply valued." With that, let's quickly take a look at some of the excerpts that we bring to you with regards to this particular news. But right now, before we go into those excerpts, let's quickly cut across to our colleague Karthikeya Sharma, who's joining us on the bulletin to bring us more insights into this given story. Karthikeya, very good morning to you. The hostage situation seems to have been resolved after a tumultuous period, or rather tensions arising in Manipur with this particular case. What's the implication of this given return?
So yeah, there are 2 things. One, this hostage drama came to end yesterday. This hostage drama involved exchange of 11 people who were lodged in Imphal jail. In exchange of that, the 2 people were released by the Kuki village volunteer force. That's one. Secondly, these people who were in the jail had already secured their bails. So they had their bails in place, but they were mostly poor people. And when I say poor people, which means that they were unable to secure bond money. So that bond money, one, and second, they were also afraid to go outside the jail because once they were caught, they could not come out because they felt that their life would be at risk because obviously they would be in Nepal. And belonging to a different ethnicity, it would have made their travel impossible to their Kuki-dominated areas. So all of them decided to stay inside the jail. So that is one information that has come, which means that most of these people had some sort of a judicial relief. They had some sort of a administrative release that they had their bails. So the people obviously who get bail, because bail is a norm, it means that none of them were involved in huge or big cases. It means that. This is a logical deduction. Because anyone who's involved in the case of terrorism or a bigger case would not be cleared for any bail. Terrorists don't get bail. In big cases, bails are not allowed. So obviously, they would have been part and parcel of the initial unrest, but then they were all bailable offences. So that is one clarity which has emerged. The second issue is that by ending this crisis in 7 days, one important thing has been achieved, that bigger organizations were not able to get into this impromptu kidnapping. We have to understand that these 3 boys were supposed to go to an examination center where recruitment for a paramilitary force was taking place. One was supposed to appear, 2 were his friends who wanted to watch it. So instead of going to National Highway 37, which is Jiribam, they actually took a different National Highway 2, and they ended up in North, which is Kangpokpi area, KPI, and then the women volunteers first apprehended them, and they were handed over to the armed militants. And from there on, the story began. Someone realized the importance of these 3 men, and they felt that some exchange should happen. So that is the second part of the story, which is becoming clear. It was an impromptu thing that has happened. They walked into a trap. The third important thing is that this is the first kidnapping in a state in which some sort of a exchange has happened in context of the Manipur violence. Fourth, it is not new that people have not been abducted in Northeast, Manipur, other parts of Northeast, and exchange has not happened. So I don't think there is something dramatically new that has happened. These things do happen in the theater in Northeast. But I think the significant part is that how will state hereon shall deal with the issue of kidnappings? Because we have seen in the theater of Kashmir that in 80s when the kidnappings and hijacking started to happen, earlier that there was no loss of life. People were released after demands being met, not being met, prolonged negotiations. But then subsequently, it took a very deadly turn in middle of the 80s when people started to disappear. Journalists started to disappear. Trekkers started to disappear. And I would say it culminated into the most dastardly, daring terrorist act of IC 814. So, things have to start from little. So I'm not saying that it has, a state has bent. State has been able to save the life. State has been able to meet a very minor demand. But then now state will have to factor in the possibilities that the other people should not get the idea, because the crackdown has to take place. People cannot be allowed to run away with the idea. So yes, it is a success on part of Biren Singh that he has very efficiently, with the help of Centre, resolved this crisis. Secondly, he has been able to ensure that the larger unrest does not take place in the context of people who have been kidnapped, because this has led to all the important voices of Manipur speaking on this issue. And please remember that, we are talking about one issue. There was violence in Ukhrul yesterday which has led to death of 3 people. And that too on the day of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. And that too on issue on the ownership and the possession of land. And it involves another community. So I would say that it also tells us that the peace is very tenuous. It's not a deep peace, it's a shallow peace. So these are the problems that have to be dealt with. Because earlier when Brijesh was with me on the phone line, he said the same thing, that the biggest challenge would be to ensure that the other people do not get this idea that they can also do this from either side, because that would become very challenging, because that negotiations for life is the toughest job which any state government has to do. It is not an easy thing, Shriya.
Absolutely, Kartikeya. And when we speak, you very rightly mentioned this. While this is it's a meta issue of sorts, if we see within the larger picture of what exactly is happening in the northeastern state of Manipur, but it does come out to be a success on the part of the government, given how they have been able to resolve this issue in such a short span of time. And I remember, Kartikeya, having this conversation with you earlier as well with regards to this very issue. It's also the way they have handled it. During a time when there's a lot of social media rumors as well, they handle the entire situation in a rather, swift manner, with very prompt action coming in from be it the police or the government side as well.
You see, it tells us that the state government, central government, have their strengths in every part of this war theatre. What it requires is a collaborative effort. This wouldn't have been able to be, this result wouldn't have been possible without a collaborative effort. I really don't want to get into the details of agencies involved. It's not relevant. But the collaborative effort of the agencies is very important. There was another agency which was involved when the first person, Johnson, came out. So this collaborative effort is very, very important. And the success in any war theatre or any unrest theatre lies in the jointness of action. And I would say that this theatre is different from Punjab and Manipur, at least Punjab and Kashmir. Kashmir, I have covered it. Punjab, as a child, I have seen it. In 1984, I was 10 years old. I've seen it. 83, 85. There, Pakistan was directly involved with trying to radicalize a section of the population and infusing guns. Here, the entire societies have been radicalized. They have become hostile to each other. So work will have to be more deeper, more wider. There has to be sort of a political process that has to come into play. And I would say that for now, it's a good, for now, this episode ends, but we must ensure that the peace is not shallow. The deep roots of peace must prevail. There are a lot of other issues in the state, from weapons to IDPs. That needs to be resolved. And yes, the menace of the fake social media reports should come to an end, because, they should not be allowed to disrupt the so-called normal functioning of the society. I think there's a very tight balancing which the administration will need to do, and the othering of communities must come to an end.
Absolutely, Kartika. Thank you for bringing us those insights into this very story, the implications of this very development that's taken place. The youths who were in fact abducted on the 27th of September have now been released. The Chief Minister of Manipur has come out to notify this on platform X, assuring that they are in safe custody of the Manipur police. Well, with that now we are slipping into a short break, but do stay tuned to News 9 as we come back with more stories on the other side.